Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Pooja Walia Man from SGI Samalkha. Today we are going to talk on the module Positioning of Services from the paper Services Marketing. So students, let us see what we are going to learn in this module. After studying this chapter, you should be able to know the meaning of positioning of services, the importance of positioning of services, the various steps involved in the positioning of services, and the positioning maps. To begin with, let us understand the meaning of the term positioning. Frequently heard statements like value for money, our people are the key, or convenience are of little descriptive or differentiating value for developing a competitive strategy. Without knowing which service features are of the specific interest to customers, it is hard for managers to develop an appropriate competitive strategy for their firm, and its products and services are still harder to evaluate. The customers find it difficult to evaluate the service subsequent performance in the marketplace. Once that target segment or that market is clear, the service marketer has to position himself appropriately for that segment. Positioning, as is now well understood in marketing, is an integral part of strategy for a new service provider. Even in the case of a mature business, a service marketer needs to reaffirm its positioning in the minds of target customers. At times, a subtle shift in positioning may also be necessary to keep up with the changing consumer preferences or to cope with the challenges from competitors. So, therefore, we can say that positioning is concerned with the identification, development, and communication of a differentiated advantage which makes the organization's service perceived as superior and distinctive from those of its competitors in the mind of its target customers. Services have a number of distinguishing features which have special implications for the positioning and attributes to emphasize. Three key characteristics for service positioning are the intangibility, the degree of variability or heterogeneity in quality of a given service, and inseparability. Briefly, the positioning is a mental image or picture that a service provider would like to have about it in the minds of the consumers. It is a deliberate attempt at building an identity of a certain kind for the service. For example, McDonald's in India has a slightly up marketing image than in the US, where it is viewed as a cheap American fast food. Since a hamburger is an everyday item of American food, it made sense for McDonald's to develop that positioning. In India, that slot is already occupied by a variety of Indian alternatives. For example, the idli dosa corner food stalls in the south, the parantha serving stalls in the north, or the tea and samosa corners of Kolkata. Therefore, the mind space that McDonald's has tried to occupy is of two types. One, the affluent, westernized teenager. Second, the modern, upscale family, possibly driven by children who enjoy the feeling of eating at a McDonald's joint. Positioning has a lot to do with the target segment to which one chooses to market, and it has elements like price, packaging, communication, and ambience which reinforce the positioning attempted by the company. Banks, for example, used to position themselves as austere, dull, but safe places you could trust until very recently. Some public sector banks in India have still not changed for that matter. However, consumer tastes have changed. Competitors in the field have brought in modern views from the advanced countries. Presently, every bank is trying to offer an ambience which is friendly with smiling young tellers and receptionists and the customer service representatives, not to mention the call centers and free photographs to open bank accounts. Thus, positioning can also be a function of a time and a place or a function of what the consumer expects. Students, let us discuss what is the role or importance of positioning. The first role that positioning of services play is to make entire organization market oriented. Product positioning is a part of the broader marketing philosophy. It concerns with identifying superior aspects of services and matching them with consumers more effectively than competition. This philosophy makes the entire organization market oriented. The second important role played by positioning is to cope with market changes. Since the product or service is positioned successfully, it does not mean the task of manager is over. He has to constantly observe the market. As per the new developments in the marketplace, new competitive advantages should be identified, discovered, or developed to suit the changing expectations of the consumers. It makes the manager active, alert, and dynamic. The other role of positioning is to meet expectations of buyers. Generally, the advantages to be communicated are decided on the basis of expectations of the target buyers. So, service positioning can help realize the consumer's expectations. The next point of importance is to promote consumer goodwill and loyalty. Systematic product and service positioning reinforces the company's name, its product, service features, and brand. The company can create goodwill and therefore can win the loyalty of the consumers. The next point is to design the promotional strategy. More meaningful promotional programs can be decided and designed on the basis of service positioning. Based on what advantages are to be communicated, appropriate means are selected to promote the product and service. Service positioning signifies those advantages that are significant to consumers. When such benefits are promoted through suitable means of advertising, it definitely catches the interest and attention of consumers. The next point of importance is to promote consumer goodwill and loyalty. Systematic product and service positioning reinforces the company's name, its product, service features, and brand. The company can create goodwill and therefore can win the loyalty of the consumers. The next point is to design the promotional strategy. More meaningful promotional programs can be decided and designed on the basis of service positioning. Based on what advantages are to be communicated, appropriate means are selected to promote the product and service. Service positioning signifies those advantages that are significant to consumers. When such benefits are promoted through suitable means of advertising, it definitely catches the interest and attention of consumers. The next point of importance is to face competition. This is the fundamental use of service positioning. Company can respond strongly to the competitors by improving its competitive strength in service design and delivery. We move ahead to another point of importance of service positioning, that is to introduce new product and service successfully. Service positioning can assist a company in introducing a new service in the market. It can position new and superior advantages of the product and can penetrate the market easily. The last but not the least point of importance of service positioning is to communicate new and varied feature added later on. When a company changes certain features of the existing services, such modifications or improvements can be positioned against the services offered by the competitors. Service positioning improves competitive strength of a company. Normally, consumers consider service advantages before they buy it. So, the service positioning proves superiority of the company's offering over competitors. It may also help the consumers in choosing the right service. Positioning links the market analysis and competitive analysis to internal corporate analysis. From these three, a position statement can be developed that enables the service organization to answer few questions like, what is the service concept? What do we want to become? And what actions must a service organization take to get there? Positioning may vary for products, outlets, or may be set for the entire organization. However, overall coherency between different positioning strategy is a must. Failing to implement the service positioning may result in one of the most undesirable outcomes. These outcomes could be in the form of an organization having pushed out of competition, to be pushed out of the consumer's demand, and for the consumers to forget about the service in the long run. Students, let's now discuss about the various steps involved in the positioning of services. According to Jack Trott, positioning strategy must establish position for firm or services in minds of the consumers. It should be distinctive, providing one simple, consistent message which must set firm apart from the competitors and which must focus its efforts. The first step is to determine the levels of positioning. For example, Vodafone has separate corporate plans and different individual plans. The second step in positioning of services is identification of attributes. After step 1, specific attributes that customers seek comes into play. For example, the purpose of using the banking service may be different for business and personal service seekers. Timings also influences the choice of service. For example, choice of going to a restaurant will be different for a corporate meeting or for a weekend family brunch. The service seeker also evaluates alternatives available to him and makes a choice based his perception on. This choice need not necessarily reflect the most important attribute he seeks in a service. For example, a customer using the services of a particular bank ranks rate of interest as the most important service feature. But mostly, all banks will have similar rates. So, he makes choice based on other factors like the timings of the bank functioning, the ambience, the staff, availability of net banking, etc. The service seeker's perception of these determinants form the basis for developing the positioning map. Let us talk about the positioning maps. Positioning maps is a useful way to represent the consumer perceptions of alternative products and services in a visual format. They are typically two attributes, but nowadays 3D models can also be used to portray the positions on three attributes simultaneously, and they are also known as perceptual maps. Positioning maps can be developed for each segment in the target market, and these maps will show the positions of different players as per the perceptions of the consumers in these segments. Mapping future scenarios help identify potential competitive responses and helps in visualization of a strategy. Products or services are mapped together on a positioning map. This allows them to be compared and contrasted in relation to each other. This is the main strength of the positioning map. Marketeers decide upon a competitive position which enables them to distinguish their own services from the offerings of their competitors. Basic positioning map templates are shown. Products and services are clubbed on various bases. Here, these are clubbed on the basis of price, high or low, and on the basis of fuel economy, high and low. Based on these two variables, the perception of the products are divided into 4 quadrants. The marketer would draw out the map and decide upon the label for each of the axes. The individual services are then mapped out next to each other based on these variables. Any gaps could be regarded as the possible area for the entry and introduction of new services. There are various options available to evaluate these positioning strategies. The first is to strengthen the current position against competitors. This means to better one's own services and thus strengthen the current position against the competitors. The second is identifying an unoccupied market position. This means to identify and fill the unoccupied and unnoticed gaps through better service delivery. The last is repositioning. This means to frequently reposition the service in order to attain a better position as compared to the competitors. This can be achieved through advertising and service innovation. The next step is the implementing of positioning. The positioning should be communicated to target audience by all employees in a uniform way. The research and analysis that underlie development of an effective positioning strategy are designed to highlight both opportunities and threats to the firm in the competitive marketplace, including the presence of generic competitors. Students, let us see what are the various types of positioning. There are a variety of ways in which positioning of the services can be arrived at. Some of the major ways of doing this are, firstly, positioning by features. It is based on a single feature or attribute of a service. If a service has some unique features that have obvious value, this may be the way to go. For example, the largest roller coaster in town, an amusement park, one new ride added every month, live music along dinner for any restaurant, etc. The second type of positioning could be positioning achieved by comparison. In this, service is positioned against a particular competitor. For example, the highest occupancy rates in the town for a hotel, the highest percentage of satisfied customers for an airline, or the highest percentage of successful candidates for a coaching class or any educational institution. Business schools frequently use rankings in independent surveys to claim they are in the top 10 or 15 in the country. There is one business school, the Indian Institute of Planning and Management, IIPM. It positioned itself against the IIMs, the Indian Institute of Management, with the tagline, "Dare to think beyond the IIMs." So that is the comparison, a comparison through positioning. Thirdly, the positioning can be done by offering a benefit to the consumer. It is based on some benefit the customer derives using a particular service. As in, you have a dream of becoming an expert programmer, working for a multinational, going abroad, etc., and we help you to fulfill it. Such can be the slogans of a computer training institute. Or a caterer could position himself as taking the hassles out of cooking and cleaning for a party. Or a resort could position itself as a getaway from the year-round hectic pace of life. Airlines such as Indian Airlines offer the largest connections to most Indian towns and cities and try to use this for its positioning. Fourthly, positioning can be done on the basis of being an expert. For example, we understand air travel for an airline, or the expert on budget tours for a tour operator. Fifthly, position can be achieved through guarantees like full satisfaction or your money back, or returns with no questions asked in case of various retail stores. Sixthly, positioning can be done as a leader. For example, number 1 in the furniture retailing business, or leadership with responsiveness in the banking industry. Seventhly, positioning can be achieved through smart taglines which may implicitly convey some benefits, like the famous line used by MetLife Insurance USA, which says, "Get Met, it pays." In India, they are currently using the tagline, "Have you met life today?" This may indicate that it settled claims with less of fuss as compared to the competitors. It may also imply other value, though not explicitly specified. Lastly, positioning can be achieved through emotions such as fear, love, concern for the environment, etc. A hotel chain in India calls its properties eco-hotels to indicate the environmental consciousness at various levels. Sahara Airlines, a late entrant into the airline businesses, had positioned itself as emotionally yours. So, students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. After the logical step of segmenting and targeting the market, a company should position itself in the minds of customers for its unique attributes as compared to its competitors. Positioning a service is difficult as compared to products because services are intangible in nature. However, a company should identify a competitive position for itself in the market by differentiating itself from the competitors. Further, a company should add value to its services by improving either its primary activities, which consist of inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, and then marketing and sales, and the service or its support activities, which include like the procurement processes, then infrastructure of a firm, human resource management, and the technology development. These interdependent and interrelated activities together contribute to the margin that the company aims to earn. This concept of a value chain has helped organizations identify their core and non-core activities so that some of them can be outsourced. The firm's strengths help the firm gain either a cost advantage or a differential advantage from its competitors. To gain a competitive advantage, a company should differentiate itself from its competitors based on the attributes that are important, distinct, communicable, superior, preemptive, affordable, and most of all, profitable to the customers. Further, companies should understand the importance of positioning in developing a marketing strategy and its influence on the profit margins of a particular company. This understanding will help a firm in framing a suitable positioning strategy. As part of the positioning strategy, a company should first determine the levels of positioning it wants to occupy in the market, then identify the attributes that are important to the target market, and locate these attributes on the positioning map in relation to its customers. Further, it should evaluate the positioning options available and decide if it wants to position itself against its competitor or occupy a unique position in the market or reposition itself. Last, it should opt for a good implementation strategy that clearly communicates the desired position to its customers.